Good evening, everyone. Everyone, I know it's a very expansive term for like 8 people, so and 1 online and 1 in the audience and 1 running it for Abington Cam. So that's what, 11 total. Big crowd. So good evening. Welcome to the 2/5/25 Abington Finance Committee meeting, February 5th, 2025. We are continuing to meet with the departments around town. Tonight we have the school department, Superintendent Felicia Moschella, Dr. Felicia Moschella.
Thank you. And Director of Finance and Operations, Sarah Gainey.
Hello.
Appreciate you guys coming. The rest of our agenda after that, our regular update for the town manager, liaison reports, correspondence, there's none. Minutes, there are none. And discussions of our next meeting, which is next week. So, a few sneak previews there.
All right, thank you.
So we're going to jump right in with the school department because we don't want to keep them late because we know that they've been up since early this morning. So
I'll probably be up early tomorrow morning.
We'll be up early tomorrow morning as we have potential
a little bit of weather coming
tomorrow,
in. So. Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us. I want to just start off by thanking the Finance Committee for meeting with us tonight, and I'd also like to thank Andrew and Scott, who have been meeting with us over the last few months as we move towards town meeting and trying to come up with a consensus budget. So thank you for that.
Thank you as well.
So I'm going to start off tonight with the presentation that we gave in our January 7th school committee meeting. That was our budget hearing evening. And then I'll go through parts of this. Actually, I'm not going to start with that, but I am going to go through parts of this and then show you where we are today, which is a little different than where we started. But the first thing I want to go through is the budget book. And that's the larger stapled packet. And I just want to spend a minute showing you what's in it. And hopefully any questions that you may have, we're happy to answer. But there's also the answers to many questions within the budget book itself. So the first page of the budget book is the budget message. And that the number has changed a little bit since we initially put this together. But our budget priorities are to maintain reasonable class sizes, to address the growing needs of our students with disabilities and our English language learner population, as well as address the mental health and behavioral challenges that we see across the school district every day. It also maintains our commitment to instructional resources like hardware, software, and books. And it also has built-in fixed costs or mandated costs that automatically increase and cause our budget to go up every year. You also have the budget development and planning schedule, right where we're supposed to be meeting with the Finance Committee in February. We next have a list of all of our staff in the Abington Public Schools by school, and at the bottom, the other FTEs that are not directly related necessarily to a school, but these are all of our staff members. Excuse me. We have how our budget is appropriated, what percentage goes to different areas of cost areas. And I'm happy to answer any questions related to that. Those areas are directly related to how we report things to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Those are our cost centers.
I got really confused for a second because I was taking notes and then running behind and looked at the page that I thought that you said was staff members.
Oh,
and I saw
11.
Pre-K 86.
Yeah, no.
It's like, there is no way we have 86 pre-K
I'm a
staff
page off
members.
because I have actually.
Like I'm guessing that is student population.
Yep. Sorry, that's
quite all right.
I think that you like.
Yeah, I might be missing that.
I like the trend.
Oh, I have the old one. Sorry. Sorry about that. Yes, we have class size.
Yes.
Each class, each grade by number, and then the average class sizes are on the bottom. Historical. Sorry. class size numbers. Thank you. That was actually, Matt, not your fault. It was my fault. I had
No,
an
no.
old one that was missing a page, so my fault. Then we have the staff list. We have our cost centers. We have what we refer to as our increase by major category page, and I'm going to not talk about this one. I have an updated one for you once we get to the budget. I have the list of staff requests that we'll also talk about. We have the next 3 pages are our instructional material requests. And you'll notice in there is also our student and staff laptops that we'll talk a little bit about. And then our last section, the second to last section, are the 8.5 by 14 pages, which is our line-by-line budget by school and other cost centers. So central office, district-wide, and then by school. And then our last are our articles for town meeting. Our budget. Then we have our out-of-district vocational transportation article. Those are for students that are attending Norfolk Agricultural School. And I'll talk a second about that. So we have students that attend Norfolk Agricultural School. We pay a tuition for those students, and we also transport them to Walpole. And Sarah organizes a cooperative bus, 2 buses actually, that pick up students in 12 different districts on the South Shore. So we split the cost of that bus with 12 other districts, and we have about 4 pickup spots for one of the buses and 4 pickup spots for the other 4 buses, and then it picks up the students from those 12 communities and brings them to Norfolk Agricultural School. And our portion of that bus is we're anticipating $17,490 for next year. So that's split between 12 people. You can imagine that's a $400,000 bus that we're split. And then the last one is an article of a continuance of a revolving account that is funded from fines that are levied against businesses in Abington for violating state or local tobacco control laws. And that is not to exceed $8,000. There isn't $18,000 in that account right now. There's about $3,000, but as fines come in, we use them for that purpose, for drugs and smoking program. Are there any questions on the budget book? Okay.
Not what's in it, but I mean, not what it is, but I think I'll have some questions on what's in it.
Sure.
As I went through. But I can find where I had the damn questions.
While Chris is finding that, I'll just point out so that we don't have to go back to it. The revolving fund, that has to be approved every year. Correct?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's not, so that those who are watching this back, watching at home, understand that's not something that's new. It's just that particular type of fund, we need to reapprove it every year.
Can we still reapprove it every year? I don't think we have to anymore.
I thought that we had sort of lumped the revolving funds or changed the wording on that for the other revolving funds.
I believe the Municipal Modernization Act has allowed towns to just keep them open. These are actually, if you look in our bylaws, this is one of the funds that's listed, so I don't think we need to vote on it every year.
So perhaps something we don't necessarily need to put on the warrant.
But right for now, we won't change it. I don't have it in the warrant, but we'll double check. But we didn't have it in the warrant last year.
Oh, great.
And we do have other monies available for you should you need it.
Great.
But so that those who are watching know, not something new, not adding funding or fees or anything of that sort. It's just continuation. Chris?
Okay, I'm on the page increase by major category.
Sure.
Which
We have an
we
updated
have an
one.
updated
Oh, there's an
version.
updated one. All right.
Yes.
Oh,
Right here.
never mind. Were you gonna go over that next?
Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
I'll wait.
Okay, sure. We're gonna go over the presentation first.
All right.
And then we'll answer whatever questions you may have, and please ask. So we're going to skip right to, so the front page of the presentation is what we just talked about, our commitments for reasonable class size, supporting our students, maintaining instructional materials, hardware and software, and fixed costs. We presented a budget at the beginning of January that included new positions. What you'll hear after I go through what we had originally said we need to where we are today, you won't see those new positions. But I think it is important that you and the community hear what we believe we need, but we will do without if we have to, but we still believe these are what we need for our students. The first one is a 0.8 EL teacher at Abington High School. And our English language education teachers provide differentiated ESL instruction for our students based on the skill level that they have when they enter the Avenue Public Schools. So we believe that we need an additional 0.8 EL teacher. A grade 5 teacher at Abington Middle School based on the number of students that are coming from 4th grade. If we didn't either add a 5th grade teacher or make changes within the school structure, moving a teacher from another grade, then we would have 27.9 students in a 5th grade classroom. We believe that we can, if we can't have another teacher, move staff around.
How are you going to decide which tenth of a student wasn't going to be?
Yeah, it's hard.
Classes?
It's hard to have a tenth of a student missing. Thank you. Maybe next year I'll say 27 to 28. A request for a TLC teacher at Abington Middle School, which is a therapeutic learning center teacher. Those are our students with some of our most severe needs that we're able to keep within the district, and we save money when they're in the district, and we also allow those students to be in their home community, going to school with their peers, which is always our first, what we try first. So this is a request for an additional therapeutic learning center teacher at Abington Middle School. And again, while this would be very beneficial for us and for our students, we believe at this time that we will be able to provide these students a level of service in another way. It may not be the same level, but we can provide the service that they need.
So I know we have talked about it in the past, and I think Chris and probably Sarah, but Abby definitely hasn't heard it, and I'm sure some of the people haven't. But do you want to just touch on some of the costs
Of special education?
Special education,
Sure.
and some of the places where that really
Sure.
hits the budget significantly hard. It's incredibly important work that you guys do, and that sometimes we have to send students out somewhere else to do, but it's also very expensive.
It is very expensive. So our obligation is to provide a free and appropriate education to all students, and from pre-K to 22. And we do the best that we can to provide that free and appropriate education within the walls of our Abington Public Schools. When we can't, for a variety of reasons, whether it is intellectual, emotional, behavioral, physical disabilities that precludes the students from being able to be successful within the walls of the Abington Public Schools, we need to look for what are called out-of-district placements. And there are a wide range of out-of-district placements. The one that we try, the least restrictive after the public schools, is what are called educational collaboratives. And we're a member of 2 educational collaboratives, North River Collaborative and Reed's Collaborative. We also have students, so we have students that attend those 2 collaboratives, and we also have students that attend other collaboratives that we're not a member district of, but have programs that support the needs of our students. So we pay a tuition to those collaboratives that range anywhere from $55,000 to $90,000, plus we have to transport them. And we transport them in special education vans or vehicles. So there's an additional cost of the transportation. If a student is unable to be successful in a collaborative, or that isn't the appropriate match for a student, then they would go to a private day school. And we have a number of students that go to private day schools. we have students that go to school west of Boston, north of Boston, south of Boston, in private day schools. Those schools range from $90,000 to $150,000 plus transportation. We've had students that have attended $150,000 a year school, and their transportation costs $400 a day. We've had students that have needed medical assistance or a nurse on a van. We've had students that have needed additional adult support in a van, and we have to also pay for that. I also want to make it really clear, though, that we try collaboratives, we try in the district, and when a student needs to be in an out-of-district placement, that is the best place for that student. And so I don't want it, that's the best place for that student and that family, and that's where that child belongs. We also, though, have students that are in residential programs, 365 days a year, residential schools. And we have had in the past students that have cost almost $500,000 for a residential medical placement.
And you said a day, but you meant a year.
I meant a year, sorry, $500,000 a year. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. That would be bad.
I assume.
Yes, that would be bad. My apologies. When we get into I think this is an appropriate place to talk about circuit breaker, and I'll show you that when we get to our increase by major category page. But what the state of Massachusetts has done, they do have a program that the district pays. The state of Massachusetts pays the first $52,000 of an out-of-district placement. So, no, the district the district pays the first $52,000 of an out-of-district placement. So you're responsible for the first it's about a little over $52,000. Then after that, the state reimburses you in the following year a percentage. So you'll see when we get to the budget presentation, we're anticipating that the state is going to reimburse at the maximum amount, which is 75%. So for every dollar over the $52,000, the state's going to reimburse us 75% of that dollar. So we're still responsible for the 25%, but they do pay the 75%. But we don't get that until the following year. And that's where you'll see we take an offset for the amount we anticipate getting in circuit breaker.
What determines the percent?
The state budget.
State budget.
Yep.
Which is fantastic this year.
Yes. We have had years ago that we had reimbursements in the 40s. Over the last number of years, the state has funded circuit breaker, if not at 75, at 73 or 74. And part of the Student Opportunity Act is a full funding of circuit breaker. But I don't really believe it till I see it.
State did specify in the announcement of the governor's budget that they were, at least in their statement, they were fully
anticipating.
They were fully funding the Student Opportunity Act again this year. So hopefully that actually holds true.
Yep. We have two additional. Our last position that we had requested was a school adjustment counselor at the Woodsdale School. We have currently have a 0.6 position there, and so it was to fully fund and make that a full-time position. We also had 3 positions that.
Before you
Yep.
move on, because in recent years we've talked to you about how students have been adjusting coming out of COVID and lockdowns. It's definitely still something on a lot of people's minds, mine included, and how students are doing. So I don't know if you wanted to.
Sure. I hate to say that our students are still recovering from COVID. I don't know if it's that or it's that I think it's the social impact of those years have absolutely impacted our students in school. There isn't a day that goes by that We don't speak to or see or talk to teachers or administrators that don't express the challenges that they're seeing with students today that they didn't see pre-COVID. Social media, I think, plays a role in that. And then coupled with the fact that COVID absolutely interrupted their instructional time. We also are seeing it at the lower grades. Those students may not have gone to playgroups and didn't go to the library and didn't go to preschool. So they had an interrupted early education as well. The supports that we have for our students' mental health, school adjustment counselors, school psychologists, school guidance counselors, those positions are very well utilized. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a few positions that we did not include in our initial budget proposal, but that were still positions that we would like to have. We have math interventionists at the middle school. We had, during COVID, paid for with ESSER funds, was a grade 5 and 6 math interventionist and a 7, 8 interventionist. And they were,
Question.
7, 8. And they were very well utilized, and we did see significant improvement in our students' academic abilities in math. But they didn't rise to the level of including them in our budget. And the last is an elementary EL teacher. So we're going to actually move from, we're not going to use this budget increase by major category page because, as I mentioned, Chris, we've made some reductions in that so far in our working with Scott and Andrew. So our increase by major category page, I didn't know if you wanted to use this. Oh, yeah, you mean electronically. Did you say? I think I sent it. Our first is our salary account. So we're going to use this page.
The updated standalone paper. You got
That says at the top, level service budget.
Yep. And it's dated 2/4.
Oh, I sent it. I sent it to you right at 6:30.
Oh,
Sorry. So our we have 4 major categories of 4 categories where our increases are. Our first is our salary account, our contractual obligations for our 150E or our enablement to negotiate with all of our unions this year. And so we are anticipating that will be $1,286,351. And I know I've spoken to this here before, and in the school committee. Abington is consistently in the average range for all salaries. All salaries in the district are in the average range for the South Shore. And we do a lot of work going into negotiations, whether it's with myself, the custodians, teachers, paraprofessionals, and we collect the data from all of our neighboring communities, and we want to be the average. We don't want to be the highest because we're an average. We're Abington. We're in the middle, and we're not going to be the lowest. We want to attract good staff. So our enablement to negotiate is to put us in a position that we are able to continue that. We've reduced our new positions, so we don't have any new positions for next year. And we anticipate right now 2 retirements. We may get more between now and the end of the school year, but right now we have 2 people that have identified that they are retiring, and we have a savings because we're able to hire people at a lower rate for next
You're
year.
replacing those 2.
We're replacing those 2.
Replacing those 2, but the teachers who are retiring at a certain step, and the people who will be
That's right.
replacing them will be at a lower step. than
That's
what
correct. Yep. So we'll still replace them, but at a lower salary. So total increase to our salary account, we're anticipating $1,264,154. We are anticipating a decrease in our special education tuitions for next year of $31,765. Our Director of Student Services works with all of our schools to our students in our current public school settings and anticipate any students that may need to go to out of district placement for next year, and builds in or doesn't build in. He just knows who's graduating, who's leaving, and we anticipate that number is going to go down next year based on who we have graduating and who we have who may be entering a out of district placement. This is our second year, I believe, that we've seen a decrease in our special education tuitions, which is excellent. But along with decreased in tuitions, we have a decrease in our reimbursement. Last year, we had a very expensive couple of students age out of their program, so our amount of spend this year went down, and we anticipated that in last year's budget. But because of that, now we're anticipating our circuit breaker for reimbursement is going to go down as well for next year. So next year we anticipate our circuit breaker reimbursement is going to decrease by $266,579.
Just the fact that they're going down, is it through actions of the school system better able to handle students, or is it just luck?
So I think we do a really good job in the district. Right. We have been able to add therapeutic learning center programs, which has absolutely been a savings. We have a number of them at Beaver Brook. We have 2 at the Woodsdale. We have 1 at the middle school. We have a co-op program at the high school. And because of that, those students would have gone out of district. But now we're able to, because we've been able to set up a classroom with a teacher, paraprofessionals, behaviorists, they can stay within the district. But we also have, we're transient. Massachusetts is pretty transient. Yeah. We have students that move in. Yeah. Anyone who moves in to a district, regardless of what time of year it is, if they've moved from within Massachusetts and they go to an educational collaborative, then the town where they started pays for them. The district, we pay for them, no matter what time of year it is. So a student moves in Massachusetts, they go to a collaborative, they could move in September, we pay their collaborative bill. If they go to a private placement, the district that they moved from has to pay the bill, but we're responsible for their educational portion of it if it's done after April 1st. So I'm presenting today on February 4th. We could have 2 students move in between now and April 1st that go to private placements that we would be responsible for. If they went, and if a student moved and goes to a collaborative, then we're responsible at any time.
Thank you.
Great questions. Special education is absolutely a driver in budgets, and I thank you for asking the questions.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Is this number here for the circuit breaker reimbursement, is that how much we're expecting to see back? Or is that like an increase to the budget?
That's an increase to the budget.
Okay.
So
And
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
Actually, I think I can answer. That is, we are expecting essentially that amount, 266,000-ish, less than what we got back last year's
This year.
reimbursements.
Yep.
Thank you.
This
Yep.
year's reimbursement.
That's correct.
FY25 versus FY26.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So the amount that we got back for FY25 was bigger than the amount that we're going to get back for FY26.
Okay. So this is like expenses, like
Yeah.
technically.
Yes.
Okay.
It increases our budget.
Yep.
Yes. Great question. We have other school services, transportation. We're going to be entering our 5th year of a contract with our bus company. And so in our last year, it's a 3% increase, so $35,256. We had in our original budget proposal the addition of a 2-run bus for home to school. So an additional bus that would take high school students home in school And then that bus would also then go and do a Woodsdale run. We have, right now at the high school, we have a long run. We have 4 buses at the high school, so we're covering the whole town with 4 buses. And then it's a long run, and then it also then goes and does a middle school run, Woodsdale run. And that is also a long ride, and it also is often late to the Woodsdale. So we had requested an additional 2-run bus, which was $89,000. So we have removed that from the budget. And I talked about special education transportation. We have to transport our students that go to out-of-district placements. And we also have some students within the school department that are unable to ride the regular school bus. So we're anticipating that also to increase by $75,020.
Just curious, why do we keep this in the school department budget and have the Norfolk Aggie transportation warrant article?
Great question. You want me to?
Yeah.
So, out of much like South Shore Votech, Norfolk Agricultural is actually the town responsibility for tuition and for transportation. South Shore Votech does their own transportation, but the town budget carries the South Shore Votech assessment. And some towns, some communities, the Norfolk Agricultural bill lands in the town budget, and others it lands in the school budget. We've kept it in the school budget because we know the students in the middle school. We have a better pulse on who's applying, who might be applying. I get emails from the middle school guidance counselor in October. These are students have shown interest. So the communication, it's just been, over the years, that's been an easier place for us to keep it rather than there's a lot of moving parts with the agricultural schools. They have to apply. We have to sign off on their application, make sure it meets the deadline, make sure that the programs that they're attending aren't replicated at South Shore Votech. So that's been why, but it absolutely doesn't have to. The Norfolk Agricultural bill, if you will, could land on the town side too. Just it has been felt that we can kind of manage the process because we're closer to the students.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Do you have other questions? Okay. And then in our last section, you'll see the instructional materials and laptop replacements, and I'd like you to call your attention down to the box at the bottom that says a proposed move to the capital plan. So through conversations with Andrew and Scott, we've talked about moving our one-to-one laptops to capital again this year, $240,000, which are a sixth of the faculty and staff laptops. That's our replacement is 1/6 every year. And we provide every 5th grade student with a new laptop and every 9th grade. And then in 9th grade, they also get a new laptop. Once they finish 8th grade and when they graduate, we collect those laptops back. They are evaluated by our technology department, and many of them are able to be recirculated down to the elementary schools, and we can have classroom sets of computers at the Woodsdale and almost classroom sets at the Beaver Brook. Those that are not in a condition to be able to be wholesale moved and reused are cannibalized for parts, and we do about 90% of the repairs in-house to laptops that get damaged by students, and so we're able to use parts, reuse parts, and it's a pretty efficient way to do it. And then
Doesn't help when a certain student may, for example, lose their laptop.
that would not be good. No, that we can't help you with that.
No, you cannot.
Insurance on that?
No, there's a replacement fee that the family pays
You can't buy
when their absent-minded daughter somehow manages to lose a laptop. Won't name any names, but it may have come up.
May have. Funny side story, a couple of years ago, we actually got a laptop in the mail from someone who found it at a rest stop in like North Carolina. But it had an A on it, and it says that, it's engraved Avenue Public Schools, and we're like, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could have got sent to Pennsylvania, but it came to us. Yeah.
Is there like, if the laptop is not able to be reused, is there a sort of fee on that too, or is it
There's
the cost of doing business?
there are fees if there's abuse.
Oh.
Sometimes a laptop is just used for 4 years. It's used hard. The battery life isn't there anymore. There might be a couple of loose keys. Then that's use. That's not abuse. But we've absolutely seen laptops that have been abused, and that becomes a
I
different.
was more thinking like abuse than
Yeah. I think, yes, I'll leave it there. We've absolutely had abuse, and that's hard. You're graduating, and now you have a bill for a laptop screen that you can see someone that put their fist through or something. So, but I will also say that our students are unbelievable. The number, so we have every student grade 5 through 12 gets a laptop, and the number of abused devices is very, very, very low. The number of lost laptops is very, very, very low. You should be very proud of your students and how they care for this technology that is a third arm in their education. They do a really nice job.
Can I just go back to transportation?
Sure.
110,000 increase. What's that? Is that a 10% increase or?
The
Over.
Special education is a 10% increase, and the regular ed transportation is a 3%.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It did seem high.
So special education transportation vendors, Sarah and Dr. Robbins, when we have special education transportation, reach out to, we have about 10 or 12 vendors for each, if we have a new student, reaching out to them. If we can, we collaborate with other districts that are sending students near us to out of district and save money that way. But we also have to, we're also transporting homeless students. That's included in there. And we're also in students in foster care. So if a student is homeless and they are living in Boston, they could come back to Abington. Or if someone is living in Abington and is from another community, then we're paying half of that transportation. And then we also have the $160,906 that we've moved from capital and from instructional materials into capital as well. Questions?
What instructional materials?
So we have 3 pages of, there's 3 pages included in the budget packet of instructional materials. On the first page, it looks like this. On the district-wide page, you'll see the student and laptop replacement for $240,000. And then we have taken the $160,000 is not our entire instruction material line. That's the increase.
Yep.
And so part of our increase is K to 5 English language arts reading program, and at $150,000, and then the additional $10,900 are other items within the 3 instructional materials, district-wide, elementary and secondary, that fit the category of not being a consumable or not being a software item. So books that would last more than 5 years. I should also add that through our budget process, our administrators and our staff really only requested things that they need. This is things that they need to run their buildings, to run their departments. there's no extras. I think while you're kind of looking over that, I also want to thank the Abington Education Foundation that has provided a number of grants to our staff, our faculty and staff, for kind of the motto of the AEF it has been bringing classrooms alive, bringing the content alive, and they have funded many activities for our students that we just can't do within the school department budget. And so between the Abington Education Foundation and the school PTOs, they really support a lot of kind of the extras that make schools come alive.
Questions?
The only thing that comes to mind, I don't think it really matters here, is do you have any idea what the state circuit breaker will be next year? Is it because the special ed went down 31,000? So should I assume the most it's going to go down is 75% of that? Is that a reasonable assumption? Or
I think that would be a reasonable assumption today.
yeah, I know you can't tell.
Yeah, but I think that is a reasonable assumption.
Because
last year-
280,000 is a big number.
It is a big number,
And if that, if that's going to happen again, you might want to know that
right?
ahead of time. You know, but
It also depends. I mean, we're in February, so our students that are in seats right now will most likely stay in seats for next year. Because remember, next year's circuit breaker is based on this year's.
that's
So,
why I
Yeah.
yeah.
thought you would have an
Yep.
idea. But if
Yep.
it's the 31,000,
Yep.
that's not a big deal.
No.
Or not as big?
Right,
Yeah.
it's not 286,000.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
260.
But I don't have last year's budget, but our last year's special education really saved us last year. Our expenses in special education really went down because
Yeah.
we had
But
a couple
we
of
shouldn't,
very expensive.
I guess we
placements.
anticipate, being in the situation where
Yeah.
that comes back to get us this year. But, but next year, we don't have to worry about it as much.
Yes.
I'm happy to answer any questions people have tonight, but to sound like my predecessor, my phone is always on and my door is always open. And please, if you have questions, call me, email me.
I will attest to members of the committee and to members of the community. Anytime I have a question, Dr. Moschella is very readily available to answer and very upbeat, regardless
you.
of what the question might be and how things might look.
Thank you.
It's
I'm
always-
happy to. I'd
always
rather.
a pleasure to work with you.
Thank
So,
you, Matt. I feel the same way, and I want people to understand where we're coming from and how we're built. I appreciate that we're a significant portion of the budget, and I just want people to understand where that comes from.
Just trying to parse it out to understand what we're spending where. And thank you for the presentation, because
Sure.
now maybe I could understand before, but I never tried. But I can see the number of students is, the early education is 88, 86, and the number of teachers is 16. In my head, I say that's 5.2, whatever it is, students per teacher, and then high school is closer to 9. And I guess that makes sense. You gotta, the smaller the people, the more attention
Sure.
they need. is the expense, though, of a high school teacher more than the early education, or is it that simple, or?
Every teacher,
Yeah.
every certified staff member, every certified teacher is on the same salary schedule. So whether you teach pre-K or third grade or eighth grade, or you're a school psychologist, you are being paid based on your number of years of experience and your education.
Yeah.
And so there's a grid that we call steps and lanes. So as you have more years of experience, your salary goes up, and as you have more education, your salary goes up. So, so in fact, you could have a high school physics teacher who makes the most in the district,
Yeah.
or you could have a first grade teacher that makes the most.
But I do notice that in the early education, I just happen to walk.
Sure.
I'm
No.
picking on early education.
Sure.
or anything. There are 0 teachers, but there's 6.
Special education teachers.
Yeah.
So all the
And
students.
they're like teachers.
Yep, they are teachers.
Yeah,
So
okay.
every teacher at the early education program is a certified special education teacher.
I
We have what's called an integrated preschool. So we have special education students learning alongside peers that pay a tuition to go there. So if we have, and the 88 students at the AEP are actually in 2 sessions. So there's a morning program and an afternoon program. And so if there's a classroom of 12 students, 6 of them would have a disability, and 6 would be peers that would pay a tuition.
But the fact that I don't know why I'm killing this. but
No.
yeah. There seems to be a higher percentage of paras and tutors in the early education versus teachers versus the higher levels, which means that those probably are less expensive than teachers.
So yes, but I just want to. So our early education program has 4 classrooms, and so within each classroom is a teacher and a number of paraprofessionals. There could be 2, there might be 3, depending on the needs of the student in that classroom. And again, wanting to keep students in their home school, in their own neighborhood with their peers, we may make the decision that this student can be successful in our program if they have a paraprofessional with them all day. They wouldn't be successful if they didn't. And so for all of the reasons, for them at least restrictive, being in their home school, in their own community, and financially, having a paraprofessional is less expensive than an out-of-district placement now for the rest of
Yeah. No,
Oftentimes.
I'm not questioning you.
No, I'm
I'm
not.
trying to figure out how expensive, the relative expense of different programs. But
I hope I didn't come across as being
No,
defensive.
no, not at all.
I just these are questions if you have, other people may have,
Yeah.
and so just trying to explain. So at the early education or kindergarten, we try to keep the class sizes the lowest.
Yeah.
They're the youngest students. We may have 28 students in a high school English class. It would be hard to have 28 students in a kindergarten class.
Yes.
Time to have one.
And as we look, and we have Andrew's put the numbers up on the screen so people from home watching at home can see them as well. But as we look, as the age increases, the number of paraprofessionals goes down, because the smaller and younger the student, the more bodies you need to help to educate them.
Yes.
And corral them.
Yes.
Different levels of corralling needed
Yes.
at the high school, which is very different thing entirely, and not needed.
It's very different. A paraprofessional at each level is very different. So yes.
So now I'm looking at this and I see there's only one bus driver, and I'm just like super curious how there's only one bus driver.
That's a great question, and thank you for asking that. We have way more than one bus. She doesn't drive all of
That's
them.
what I was hoping.
So we have a contract with First Student who does all of our buses except one.
Okay.
So A1, who's Judy Durant, who everyone loves. Judy is an employee of the school department, she's a bus driver and has other jobs during the school day. So she drives a home to school route, and then she also does a lot of our after school trips.
Okay.
And so we save money we lease the bus from First Student. It's parked behind Beaverbrook. Or in front of Beaverbrook, you'll see it parked there. And that bus is used for athletics. It's used for field trips. And so we lease it and then pay Judy.
Okay.
And so it's a lot less than having to outsource every single trip, she does all the school to library field trips. She does many of the school-based field trips, and she's the first bus that we contract for athletics.
Okay. Yeah, I was just like, I know there's more than one.
Yeah, that was a great question.
It would be very difficult to get all of the students to school with one bus.
That is correct. That is correct. 60 at a time.
Because you are no longer requesting a additional fifth grade teacher position, what are you doing to manage class sizes for that?
So there are a couple of other grade levels that have they aren't low class size, but they're lower than the 27.9, and so we'll be looking to move an existing classroom teacher to the middle school.
And I will say, from my experience and my children's experience, the flexibility of the teachers within the system to change what grade they're teaching has been excellent.
Yes, thank you. I think our teachers are exceptional, and I think that in through the years when different curveballs have been thrown to them, each and every single staff member, I would say not even just teachers, has just risen to the occasion and done what's best for kids. And what else can you ask for as a school superintendent?
We're going to talk about school capacity and school conditions.
Thank you very much, Chris. So we have a beautiful, that I'm not calling new anymore, middle high school that's now in its
Crazy that it's
8th
not
year.
new anymore.
And we're starting to see some things that aren't in warranty that are needing to be fixed and repaired, but we're able to do those and keep that building as efficient and looking as beautiful as it can. But then we have 2 aging elementary schools. And, we've talked about capital plan for years. And one of the items on our capital plan has always been the roof, not always, but for probably 10 years, the roof at the Woodsdale that we still have yet to replace. And we hope to continue to repair roof leaks with duct tape and bubble gum and a roofing contractor, because we don't want to be putting a new roof on that building when we don't know what the future holds for our elementary buildings. The bigger issue than the Woodsdale is the Beaverbrook. And the Beaverbrook is a slab. It was built like old slab homes in Massachusetts. So all of the utilities run through the concrete. And a building that is 68 years old has all of the heating pipes within the slab. And we had an evaluation of the heating system done last year, and it was absolutely the recommendation to abandon our current system. It isn't about the boilers. It is about the boilers. They're ancient as well, but the infrastructure within the building is the real problem right now. So we'll have steam leaks. Areas of the floor will become warm, is how we'll find out. Not hot, like that someone would get hurt, but like this is too warm. And we have to then, Jason Lynn, our maintenance director, and an outside contractor will have to go through the concrete and replace pipe. And so it's rotting. The pipes are rotting. We've maxed out the electrical capacity in that building. The new roof on the Beaverbrook is now 19 years old, and we have had in windstorms, we've had tiles come off. And so as a community, I do believe that we need to, in the next year or so, be discussing either a new elementary school or a renovated, an addition and renovation to our elementaries. And I would recommend we go through a feasibility study like we did for the middle high school, and partner with the Mass School Business Authority, Mass School Building Authority, and really, money is going to have to be put into our buildings, and how that's done, and to what extent is going to be the question. Thank you.
And, future size issues or, beyond repairs, just space.
Space.
Is that?
Yeah, so thank you for that as well. So every year we do a demographic study with NESDEC, which is a company, New England School Development Council, and they do enrollment projections for us. And right now we're okay. We're full. Our buildings are full, but we're not busting. We don't need to put portable classrooms out behind our schools. But they're anticipating that in 2028-29, we're going to have 100 more students than we have today. In 30-31, 120 more.
This is across the district.
Across the district, yep. Primarily at the elementary. So, for example, the NESDEC projections, and these have been relatively accurate. We have a portion of our population that's pretty transient. We also have, I know we have a number of housing units that are being anticipated in town, which will have an impact. It is hard trying to do these demographic studies in the olden days. I was talking to a demographer a couple of years ago, and he said we could almost always say if it was a 4-bedroom house, it was 4 or 5 people, 3 kids, 2 adults. If it was a 1-bedroom apartment, it was 2 adults, no children. And now that's just not the case anymore. So this takes into account births, housing starts, and anticipated building in a community. So right now we have 146 kindergartners, and in 3 years they're anticipating 206. So that's 2 more classrooms of kindergartners. Now, kind of the good news on the other end is
maybe 3.
Yeah. So we do anticipate an increase in enrollment. I also think those are the COVID babies that will be 5 years old.
Yeah.
And then before they become kindergarten, they become early education, right?
Yes.
For the most part. I mean, not all.
Yes. So the 86 preschoolers, there's probably 30 of them that are receiving special education services. So those students are our first priority.
Yeah.
And then we have slots, if you will. So if we couldn't have as many students to pay tuition and be peers, then we wouldn't. But that being said,
that's going to be growing, and
yes,
and that's where you have the most
and also
students to teacher ratio, and you got to start thinking. I'm sure you are.
Yes, the community needs to start thinking, which is I also want to you talked about I said that we're full.
Yeah.
We're not bursting. Our number of sections, our number of classrooms hasn't grown significantly over the years. Our high school grew after we opened the new building, and those 4 years after that, 5 years, we saw significant increases, and those have been sustained. But what we have, though, are students with so many other needs that spaces that would have been for art, music, health, a special education teacher having their own room, that space we don't have anymore, because those spaces are special education teachers, physical therapists, PT, OT, the TLC, the therapeutic learning programs. So those spaces have taken the classroom spaces. So, we might have art on a cart. We might have at the Woodsdale, there's music on the stage and art on the stage, because we don't have dedicated classrooms that we had in the past. And the same thing holds true at Beaverbrook. And truly every space at the middle high school is used all day.
Other questions? Anything else for us?
No, I just want to really reiterate my invitation to anyone who has questions, whether you're on the finance committee or a community member, parent or not, please come and ask me questions. That's what we're here for.
Anything to plug?
Well, we have our winter athletics are doing great. We have a spring musical in March, which is always great fun. And there's just our schools are exciting places, and they're alive from early in the morning till late at night. And so I think they're well used, and the programs that our faculty, staff, coaches, directors provide is pretty incredible. What you get for what you're getting, I think you should be very proud.
Definitely.
So thank you.
Matt, I had one question.
Sure.
Yes,
Oh, I
Barbara.
forgot, Barbara.
Barbara always has at least one question. Surprise.
I just wanted to. Sorry, Matt, what was that?
I said I'm surprised you hadn't chimed in yet. Go right ahead.
Well, I didn't have sound for a little bit, so but I don't think you covered this. At the Frollo, do you rent out at one time North River Collaborative or the other classrooms were being utilized or rented out? I just wondered what we're doing with that space, the additional space.
Sure. So right now we have, believe it or not, many of the spaces are occupied in there. North River Collaborative was using one of our classrooms. We brought that program that was a North River Collaborative program. We brought that into the district, and we take tuition from other districts for their students. It's a work program for students in special education, and they're actually going to be using space back at the Frollo again next year. They haven't for a couple of years, but that's an in-district program. Currently, Abington Copes is using space there as their office. We have the American Legion office, the Veterans office there. And then we have our maintenance department has a workshop on the first floor that they're able to do a lot of repairs in there that we wouldn't otherwise have space for. There's some storage. We have some areas on that first floor that we're storing some town records and then school department records. And we have about 3 or 4 empty classrooms, and that's it. right now. And part of the third floor is minimally handicap accessible, so it's hard to put very much there.
Right. I just wanted to address, I know that I've heard or seen questions about what we're doing with all of the space in that building, and I was pretty sure it was being utilized.
It is being utilized with conference room, offices. Like I said, we have Avenue Copes there, another organization there, and there's
The gym is also used
The-
regularly.
the
Daily.
gym is used daily, all day. We have Abington pickleball in there, and then we have athletics are using it in the afternoons.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Barbara, one question is way below your usual.
I'm hanging by a thread here, man.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you both so much for coming. Thank you for all the time that you're putting into the budget this year. I know I've seen more behind the scenes than I see most years this year, and I know how much effort you guys are putting in and how much of a partner you are for the town manager and the other departments, trying to make sure that you're not putting all of the cost cutting onto the other departments. And I know that
Right.
there are other towns where that's not always the case. So it's definitely all of the work you do and the collaborative spirit you do it with is very appreciated.
Thank you.
So
I started off by saying, and I just want to finish by saying that I do appreciate working with Scott and Andrew and the finance committee. I have seen Matt a lot more than we usually do.
I think that's going to be the.
I apologize
No,
for that.
stop.
Unfortunately, going forward, I think that's probably the way we'll be doing business, and it always has been a great working relationship
Yeah.
with this school department.
We're very
which
lucky.
is, it's not the norm.
Yeah.
And since I've been here, that's the way it's been, and it's been great. And
Yeah.
we don't always agree, but we work together and do it.
Yep.
Get it done. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
all.
your time.
Thanks. Barbara, feel better.
Appreciated.
Thank you, Felicia.
All right. Town manager update.
Really?
Or anything for us this week?
No, I think, as you just heard from Felicia, that we're still working closely to get our numbers refined. I think we got our assessment from South Shore VOTEC, which was better. That was probably the only ray of sunshine I think we've gotten so far this year. So that was good news, and still plugging in the numbers. We're still waiting on the vote from health insurance to know exactly what that number is. Liability insurance, we haven't gotten that number in yet. And so that being said, we're still sitting at a deficit of a little in the $1 million plus range. We're confident one way or another we'll work it out this year without having, any layoffs, we're hoping, at this point. I think it's going to be, as we've discussed all along, everything's level service. You are hearing from all the departments, again, what they feel that they actually need, but what they're willing to work with. So that's sort of, that's where we are. We've had some, I have met, I believe I've met with you since I've met with the school committee, though, to discuss with them, and that was a great meeting. The school committee, it was very enlightening to see their budget process too, and see how committed that their department heads are to their programs. It was a nice experience. But I did explain to them to try and get them to understand what's going on with our trash and waste hauling costs, and I think we've got that scheduled in here in a couple of weeks where we'll have a lot of discussion with this board on it. Again, we're refining that. The school department and members of this finance committee, board of selectmen, we've all been working together with staff to come up with a very thoughtful plan on an explanation on why we think this is important and why we have to do it. And that's about it. I didn't have any correspondence either, so.
All right. Any questions for Scott? Barbara, anything?
I got nothing.
Does anyone have any liaison reports?
No?
As noted, there was no correspondence. We have no minutes to review. Our next meeting is next Wednesday. We will have Fire Hot Shots Part 2 and Sashar Votek. I will not be here personally, but we actually should have a bigger crowd because I've heard rumors of a couple of members that have been forced to miss a bunch of recent meetings may actually be returning next week.
Nice.
So hopefully Barbara's nice and healthy. Greg will be back from his trip next week. So
We hope.
so we should have a good crowd without me next week. So. And then after that, the 19th is school vacation week, and we have nothing scheduled for that week. Following week, the 26th, we have a handful of departments, and I think that's when we're going to planning on having the waste removal discussion, which will certainly be a hot button issue at town meeting, so it'll be a big discussion for us to have here.
Yeah, and then we, again, and we'll talk more about it on the 26th, but we are planning for March 19th, we are going to have, a public forum at I think right now we're currently planning to do it at the senior center. We want to get everybody's input on this, opportunity for folks who want to ask questions even before town meeting to ask questions, particularly about trash and why we feel that we need to do it. So there'll be a lot.
God, is that the 19th or the 26th?
26th.
I thought it had been moved to the 26th.
And the 26th for our meeting is when that discussion is. When was the plan for the information session at the senior center?
I believe
don't
we were
believe it
planning
was.
the 19th, but we might have moved that as well. No, I think it would have to be either the 19th or the 26th, though. My thought was it was going to be the 19th. Before we advertise it, we'll nail that down a little bit better.
I'm sorry, I could be wrong. I thought we had pushed it back, but maybe the 19th is the pushed back date.
I mean, not the same thing.
What was that?
I mean, I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing.
Correct. The info session is a different thing than our finance
right,
committee
yeah.
meeting. The trash discussion on the 26th with our meeting is definitely something
That's a
that was
definite. That we're doing.
yeah.
So the open house, I believe we were doing March 19th, but maybe we did move it.
Yep. And it's tricky because the dates of the week in March and February are always the same, so it gets confusing as to which month we're talking about when we're saying Wednesday the 19th and Wednesday the 26th and stuff, so. But just to continue to highlight our schedule, the last week of department head meetings, or department meetings will be March 5th. We'll have DPW and Highway, Community Preservation, it says recreation and sewer, but those are part of DPW. So,
I will not be able to be here on the 5th.
okay. And then after that, we're gonna need to vote on warrant articles because town meeting is at the beginning of April. What is the exact date of town meeting?
April 7th?
April 7th. It'll be at, I assume, 7 o'clock at the high school.
I'm assuming 7 o'clock, but I better check with the Board of Selectmen since they
They
choose,
set
and
the date.
they do tend to like to meet earlier than most.
So, but for anybody watching and paying attention, be prepared to come out on April 7th. Do we have anything else for tonight? Other points, topics, things to discuss, motions?
Motion to adjourn?
I have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second from Barbara. Motion was from Sarah. Any discussion? Without any, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
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 All those opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you all.